Hello, everyone, and a welcome to a Founders Society exclusive. My name is Dr. Katherine Polak, and I'm a veterinarian originally from the US, from the Chicagoland area. And I oversee all of our companion animal work in Southeast Asia, spanning from our partnership programs that focus on spay neuter and animal rescue, along with overseeing our local activities for the dog and cat meat trade. So I'm really excited to take a few moments today to be able to talk to you about some of the work that we do, why we do it, how we do it, and some of our achievements and plans for the coming months. So without ado, let's go ahead and get started. Probably most of you are very familiar with FOUR PAWS work, but just in case you aren't, I wanted to include this very busy looking map that really just exemplifies the amount of work and the breadth of programs that FOUR PAWS runs around the world, from farm animal welfare to wild animals to companion animals. We have offices in 15 countries and the organization is rapidly growing. And that's really exciting because it just means that we can simply help more animals. So in my position, I oversee our companion animal work in Southeast Asia. We have a regional office in Bangkok. I'm personally located in Thailand, but again, my work spans, 4 countries primarily. And we are active throughout the region primarily through a very unique initiative called our Southeast Asia Partnership Program. And with that program, we actually lend capacity building support to local charities. And we also run exciting programs with them. And so what that means is that each of our programs is uniquely tailored to the local condition, right? So in some countries, spay neuter is more appropriate. And in others, it's about, humane education. In others, it might be about, more dog and cat meat trade focus. And so again, all of the programs are different. And so this is just a list of our partners. So we have, a very large program in Cambodia with Animal Rescue Cambodia. But we also have an exciting Cats Matter 2 program that focuses on our feline friends in Vietnam. And then we have several programs in Indonesia. We have a stray animal care program in Borneo. We have a large program in Bali that actually is a feeding program. It's a vet clinic for emergency care in the area of Ahmed. And it's also a community engagement program. We also have an education program where we're developing an online educational platform in Indonesia with Jakarta Animal Aid Network. And then in Thailand, halfway between, if you're familiar with Thailand, Bangkok and Phuket, we have a stray animal care program, which focuses on rescue and spay neuter primarily. And these partnership programs are really what makes, FOUR PAWS unique in terms of our on-the-ground action, providing direct animal care where it's needed most, helping, with local charities and really serving to work collaboratively with them, but also engaging with local stakeholders and in communities. So this is just a few, snapshots from our programs, and I see our Vietnam vet there is cut off by my head in this video. But again, the programs are all unique, but they really provide us with a unique platform as well, because I want to talk to you primarily about our dog and cat meat trade campaign and our local work. And none of that would really be possible without, the support and the collaboration with our local partners. So our work is about supporting local communities, supporting local government to help animals. Certainly not about us just coming in and saying do this and do that. So just a few photos from the field, all taken quite recently, actually. So today, what did we want to talk about? So I wanted to just, give you a bit of a picture about how do we, and this is particularly pertaining to the dog and cat meat trade, which, as you probably know, is rampant in many countries, and it really undermines our ability to run stray animal care programs, right? Because if we're going to invest money in spay neuter, it doesn't make sense if the animals are being, stolen and killed off the street. And so I wanted to talk a bit today about, just how we came about to even know about the magnitude of the trade, some of our investigations that we've done, talking about, what we've seen on the ground, some of the cruelty, and I'm not going to get into too much detail, but just keep it somewhat higher level, but to really describe and to give you a sense of what our team experiences in the region. And then I want to talk a bit at a higher level about, well, what do we do with that information, right? Like, we witness some horrific things, and we have to process that, but the most important thing is that we have to make it meaningful. Like, we have to use what we see and what we document to make meaningful change, for animals. That's ultimately what we're here for. And then I want to talk about, some of our very special dogs, some of them that, you guys really helped us not only rescue, but provide in-country care for these dogs. And then they were, got the very, lucky opportunity to become U.S. residents, and they're, American dogs now. Although their hearts will potentially be still in Cambodia a bit. And I also wanted to just end with kind of a sneak peek of what our team is planning next. So talking about how do we discover animals that need help? This is, there's a lot of different facets to this and avenues that we hear about, animal suffering. The way that we really got involved was in late 2018, we established this partnership program, right, across the region. So we had all of these partner programs that were going into communities, they were going into local schools, they were, being called by members of the community to rescue animals. And then, they would often receive reports about animals going missing, being stolen, just sheer, dog and cat meat restaurants popping up. And so a lot of times that actually spurred our investigations, right? We thought, okay, well, we need to know a bit more about this in this local area. In Indonesia, we had been doing investigations since around 2017. With some of our local partners there. And so this is actually a market that we went to go and investigate. And so sometimes we learn about, these, markets or very cruel practices through, the general public might, bring us up and tell us, or we might hear about it. And so we always have to go and validate these things, right? We don't want to report on something that we have no firsthand knowledge of. And so this was a market, and there are more than 200 of these actually in North Sulawesi in Indonesia that are these very brutal live animal markets. And they're actually called extreme markets, and I can confirm they are extreme. And so we go there and we document, right? Like, that's one of the hardest parts of the job, is to have to witness this just absolute cruelty and sheer disregard for these animals that are just being beaten and then set on fire alive in the streets, one by one by one. And it is truly 360 degrees of horror. It is, on one side, you have cats being set on fire. On the other hand, you have dogs literally breaking off their teeth because they're being bludgeoned over the head, and they're trying to get off the catch pole, and they're being set on fire. And then you have other species all around you being butchered, and it's there's really no words actually to describe it. It's just shocking. But in the moment, I just remind myself that we're there to document. And whenever we have the opportunity to rescue animals, we always rescue animals. That's, the whole point is to save these animals. But we also have to balance that with the reality is that, this is a trade that involves millions of animals. And there are simply not enough shelters in Southeast Asia to put these dogs. And so we have to just stop the trade, primarily through, government lobbying and getting, law enforcement to take action. And so in this case, we were able to save some of these dogs, but certainly not all of them. And every rescue situation is different, and it's heartbreaking. There's no words to put, to really describe that feeling for the ones that you have to leave behind. But we just hope that we can leave and emotionally recover from what we see, and then be able to use that for change. Again, like, that's the whole point. Other times it's a bit different. I mean, this is dog Quentin, and he's been part of our US-based kind of Escape the Trade initiative to get these dogs into safe homes. But Quentin was actually chained up at a tree. We had learned this was during a large-scale investigation, a nationwide investigation that we did in Cambodia of the dog meat trade. and he had been sold into the trade for whatever reason, and he was about to be slaughtered by being hung from a tree. So in Cambodia, many times dogs are drowned in mass. They are drowned in these just fetid, disgusting pits with cages packed full of dogs, or they're hung or bludgeoned. And I mean, it's an incredibly brutal and cruel trade, right? Because it's completely unregulated. And it's just done the cheapest way, that people can do. And it involves a lot of pets, a lot of stolen pets in particular. So it's just really heartbreaking. And we, were in the situation, and he was the only dog on site, and we just knew, like, we can't leave this dog behind. And we, again, there's some negotiation with the owner to be able to rescue these dogs, and we were very fortunate to be able to rescue him. He now was in a really great home, right? So we took him. It's always challenging too, because you don't know the disposition of these dogs. When they are emotionally traumatized. They've usually been beaten. They might have broken bones, lacerations. We've seen dogs with their jaws literally hanging off. And so you never know their disposition, but this boy was so sweet, just really incredible. I think just a true testament to a dog, to the forgiving and loving nature of a dog, no matter what they've been through, the betrayal that, their human counterparts have put them through, but yet they are still loving. Just really, again, I keep saying can't put it into words because I really can't. But this guy, we were able to take him back to our rescue partner at Animal Rescue Cambodia. And then he was part of our Escape the Trade initiative and now has a home in the US. So much love to Quentin. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea of how we go about, undercover, doing our undercover investigations. And often they're complaint driven, or someone tells us about it. Or sometimes we just want to know, like, we need to know what's going on in the country. And so we, send either a professional team of investigators, or it might be myself and a group of local people, or sometimes just locals. It just depends on the situation. For campaigning purposes, though, we usually try to target a city or a market or a province, to really try to get political momentum. And so like in Indonesia, for instance, we really wanted to target those markets because they're just so incredibly brutal. And so we spent a lot of time investigating, a lot of, campaigning around those markets in particular. But very recently, we've been talking with the district governor of Bante Shray district, which is in Siem Reap, right outside historic Angkor Wat. And this governor really doesn't want dog meat in his district. So we, want to provide help, of course. And so for that reason, we did a large-scale investigation in his district, because we need to report, what's going on, how many dog meat restaurants there are, how many slaughterhouses, and then report back with the, the intention that we want to help close those places down. So I already gave you just a snapshot of where we've gone and what we've seen, so I might have jumped ahead. But we've seen some of the most heartbreaking actions against companion animals that you can imagine. This is a motorbike filled with dogs. And you'll see these throughout Vietnam, throughout Cambodia. And you might not even know, especially if you were a tourist, like what this was if it drove by really fast. But there are pots and pans, those aluminum pots and pans at the top there. Those are used for trading dogs and cats. So if you don't want a dog, or a dog is barking in your neighborhood and you want to get rid of it, okay, well, you get an aluminum pot, and then the dog gets put in the cage, and then these cages drive to the slaughterhouses. Outside Phnom Penh, which is the capital of Cambodia, there are 4 or 5 very large-scale dog slaughterhouses that we've been able to access. And they are, just one of those things where it's hard to wrap your mind around. I think I actually have a photo here. Is actually, these dogs are trafficked from Siem Reap, from the Thailand border, and they are going to be drowned in a large drowning pit. And it's, it can be hundreds of dogs that are, waiting, and you're just there almost paralyzed, because it's just, it's hard for, I think, your mind to even comprehend. Some dogs are still wearing collars, probably stolen from their owners, a lot of injuries. and it, you know, the stench of it, I think it's just the smell, and the urine and the feces and the vomit and the blood, and it just stays with you. It just lingers. And in most situations, the dogs eventually are set on fire. They're blowtorched because that quickly removes all the hair, and that smell just permeates your clothes. And it's really hard as a veterinarian. You know, I'm talking about it to you very matter of factly, and it's certainly not that I'm, you know, hardened to it or don't recognize the sheer cruelty and the severity of it. But it is very ethically difficult to reconcile in my mind, you know, taking an oath as a veterinarian, you know, to protect animal welfare, to help those that we can, and knowing that I can't help them all in that moment. And it's really challenging. You know, the days that come after we do these investigations or we do these rescues, like, uh, you know, it's hard to celebrate because I'm very happy for those dogs, and those dogs that we rescue, they just bring me to tears. And when I hear the updates and I hear how they're doing, um, you know, it makes it all worth it. And I hope that those dogs that are rescued tell the story of the millions of dogs that, you know, weren't so lucky. And um, you know, it makes it feel like it was worth it, that we had to endure what we endured and what we saw. And it gives me hope for the future and for being able to put an end to this trade. I wanted to mention also the cats, because cats, if you know me, you know cats have a very special place in my heart. I am very much a cat person, and it just Four Paws is in a very unique position because we've really been doing a lot of investigation focusing on just cats. And cats just get left behind. Like, they get left out of the conversation. You always hear about dog meat trade, dogs in Korea and China, Yulin Festival, but what about these cats? And the cats suffer. I mean, it's hard to quantify the level of suffering, but cats suffer in silence. And again, many of these are our own cats. They're stolen. Pet theft is so pervasive in Vietnam. It's rare you find someone who hasn't had a pet stolen. And in fact, you'll see a lot of media reports of vigilante justice from pet owners, where they are, you know, literally beating these thieves to death when they catch them after stealing their animals. And that's why I was so, you know, passionate about starting this Cats Matter 2 program, because let's start a program where we can educate people about how to keep their cats safe, how to keep their cats inside, the dangers of the cat meat trade. But again, in order to really run this program and to be an expert, to know even how to tackle it, we have to do investigations and we have to see it. And we just finished a very large scale investigation using a professional agency, because the cat meat trade is so mafia driven. It's very difficult to get access. And so we had to be a bit creative to do that and to get into these slaughterhouses and warehouses. And, you know, cats are so easy to hide, right? And so we're actually finding that they're being smuggled into like Greyhound passenger bus cargos, and they're going 18 some hours. And the slaughterhouse owner will say, you know, yeah, we expect many to die along the way. That's just, you know, that's just the cost of doing business, because they die of exhaustion and heat stroke in these holds. And so we really want to, you know, help as many cats as we can. And these are two pups, very near and dear to me. This is Neri and Sopal, and just two dogs that, again, were part of our Escape the Trade initiative. And they were about to be choked to death with a rope at a slaughterhouse in Kampong Cham, in Cambodia. And Neri, the one there on the left, was just so terrified. She was just shaking the entire cage. Like, you just hear the whole cage rattling. And it was one of those things, again, that, you know, we were there to document what was happening. And we knew, you know, you just sometimes in the moment, you just know, like, you lock eyes with a certain animal, you just know you can't leave them behind. So you'll do whatever you need to do to make sure that you can rescue those. And so these two, again, went back with us. They were the only two left. And so we, you know, quickly swept them up and took them back to our rescue partner. And Neri was so shy and so scared. But what was really interesting, I'm going to show you a photo at the end of this, but she just really came out of her shell when she was adopted in the US and really just became, we called her this little like prairie leaf dancer because she flew to the, the Northeast during the fall. And so she got to play in the foliage. So really happy for these two. So what is our role? Like I talked to you already about the investigations. I talked to you about, a few specific rescues and some specific dogs that we rescued. But how does this fit into a broader picture? So we believe in working within communities, not only supporting pet owners, because I just want to make very clear that dog and cat meat consumption, that is an activity of the minority. Like we're talking less than 10% of the population eat, dog and cat meat. And in some places it's far lower than that. And the pet ownership population in these countries is growing exponentially. And so, we are here to give support. And the reality is too, is a lot of the people that are involved in the trade, like the butchers and the traders, they don't want to be doing this. There's community stigma around it. They feel shamed, but they just lack other opportunities. And so you might have seen last October, we shut down a dog meat slaughterhouse in Cambodia and rescued all the dogs and helped this owner transition to a livelihood involving vegetable and rice cultivation, installed a well in the property for selling water. But this is actually during the closure and he's crying. I mean, just literally broke down in tears and said, thank you, FOUR PAWS. I hope you can take care of these dogs like I couldn't. And he actually had two dogs in this cage, the two that are actually the black one and that brown one there, that are kind of going towards his hand. They were in that cage for over 2 years because in his mind, they brought the business good luck. Like he put them in there as puppies, and then his business started doing really well. And so those dogs have witnessed the slaughter of thousands and thousands of dogs. So it's kind of, again, it's one of those kind of mind-boggling situations. It's hard to wrap your mind around. But so he was very thankful, and we look to always lend support when we can. Just some more scenes from that closure and some of the rescued pups. You have my colleague Matthew on the bottom left with dog Widget. There in the middle, we're actually removing the sign for dog meat trade, for the dog meat trade restaurant. It was really interesting. During the closure, we actually had quite a few people from the community come up to us, and we weren't sure what was going to happen, like what their reasoning was, but they actually were really supportive. And they said, we're so happy to see this guy not have to kill dogs anymore. Like we hated driving by this place every day. That was really cool. But of course, we always have to also dismantle. We have to take all the cages and all the equipment away. And these things are heavy. Like these things are a lot of work to carry away. And so we had to get someone in to actually remove or, to dismantle this dog meat holding cage. And there you see some of the pups there on the right. Again, they arrived in the Northeast in the fall. So you have that nice foliage there. And that's dog Bates, who was about to be drowned actually before we rescued him. Yep, and here we have Boomer, and Boomer is one of what we call the lucky charm dogs. He was one of those dogs that was in that cage for 2 years. And again, like to just think about the emotional trauma that dog went through, and loving. I mean, and loving, and is just really living his best life now in his new home, going on hikes, and just, enjoying the life that a dog should have. And so, as you know, again, we try to work in communities, and we always will try to find local homes if local homes are available. There is, though, a very limited adoption market for dogs that are not purebred, they're not small, they're white in color. Adopting shelter dogs really hasn't taken hold yet in Southeast Asia, and we hope that it will. And we always do promote, right? We do promote adoptions, and we try to promote, responsible pet ownership. But the reality is that we feel very strongly that when we rescue a dog, like we're committed to that dog for life. Like we have an organizational responsibility to make sure that dog stays out of the trade. And so it's very important for us to get these dogs to safety. And so for that reason, for our last few, dog meat rescues, these dogs have flown to Boston and they have gotten amazing homes there. And so you can see there Mandy and Jen with the dogs. And these are the days before transport. We get them ready, acclimated to their cages. We get them used to wearing their harnesses. We give them baths. We make sure all of the paperwork is, single, double, triple, quadruple check, because it's so important to get these guys through customs on both sides. And so, yeah, just a shout out to Jen and Mandy, who flew all the way to Cambodia from Boston, really for like 48 hours, and then went back with the dog. So a huge thanks to them. But what does it all mean, right? We can rescue these individual dogs, and that's so important to us. That gives us the motivation to continue and to get out of bed each day and to continue doing this work. But we have to work at a political level and put this in a campaigning perspective. And so that's what we have, offices around the world that work on this issue with us. They support us on the ground. And so what we do is we really try to identify political figures that are supportive. Again, I mentioned Siem Reap. So we're working with the district governor now to make that district the first ever dog meat free, district in Cambodia. We work a lot with CMAC, which is down on the bottom. CMAC stands for Cambodia Mine Agency. And so we are working with them because they actually use dogs for demining. Because landmines are such an issue in Cambodia. And so they are big dog lovers. They're very politically connected. And so we've had some big workshops with them to bring key stakeholders in and to get them to even understand this is a problem, right? And so we do a lot of report writing. I mean, that's not sexy at all, but a lot of what I do, unfortunately, is behind the keyboard as well, because that's equally as important. We have to document what we're seeing, and we have to be able then to use these reports and this material to motivate political action, right? So again, like in Indonesia, for instance, we'll target a city, we'll target Surakarta, for instance, we'll do an investigation, we'll document what's happening, and we put it into reports, we do campaign videos, and then we try to influence, the political, bodies that are there. And we've had a lot of success in Indonesia, and we've actually had, a national directive passed down to provincial governments saying that they have to tackle this trade. They haven't all done that yet, and so we still have to, nudge that along a little bit. But this is what it's about, and we are actually very close to signing an MOU with a national organization under the Ministry of Agriculture in Cambodia to stop the dog meat trade, to close down dog slaughterhouses. So that just needs a few more rounds of legal review, but we're really excited. And again, this is what it's about. And then we can really target these big slaughterhouses, close them, rescue these dogs, and stop dogs from ending up in this trade, to begin with. Where are these dogs now? Well, I think I kind of already answered that. I'm going to skip this because I'm not sure how this will record, but it is a video of dog Maddie, who's now named Olive, but she is running around the living room like a mad woman. And then we have Neri, and Neri was who I had just mentioned to you before, and who was going to be choked to death and was really shy. I mean, really fearful dog. And when she came to the US, she just really blossomed, really incredible. And so she actually was adopted by an adopter who then adopted another one of our dog meat dogs, Gabby, from the slaughterhouse. And so they, like slaughterhouse buddies, reunited in New England. And so they apparently really enjoy their doggy friendly ice cream together. And then we have Nikki, and Nikki is a really special story because Nikki was rescued with these two other pups, Bene and Bates, and they were about to be drowned. There's a big drowning pit and just this absolutely bedded, disgusting house of horrors. It's the best way I can describe it, that we are, again, working with the national government to get that MOU in place and go and shut these places down for good. Nikki was also sent to New England, and she is now living with two cats and a human brother. Yeah, and apparently she loves playing in the snow. So who would have thought? But we still have dogs waiting to go. And so I wanted to mention COVID. I can't believe I've gotten through a whole presentation without mentioning coronavirus or social distancing. But the reality is that we still have these 6 slaughterhouse pups that, you know, are still waiting to go. And that's because of flight restrictions. And there's been some real challenges. I mean, as you know, restrictions on, you know, flights and travel and itineraries. And so we are waiting every day for these restrictions to lift, because we can't wait for these pups to get, you know, the homes they deserve as well. But there's still so many that need our help. And so this is one dog from a slaughterhouse that we took actually quite recently, and that we are really actively pursuing to try to work with this owner to convert out of the industry. So that was already a snapshot into what we are planning next. We are really hoping to close this slaughterhouse down. This is a slaughterhouse that is, it's midway point between the cities of Phnom Penh and Siem Reap, and it's a major supplier in the region. And we actually nicknamed this the kingpin, like kingpin of dog meat trade, because during our investigation, all of the restaurants said that they got their meat from her. Like they all got their meat from this one place. And so we were determined to find it. And after a lot of discussion, I mean, this has been going on for months and months, you know, they really don't want to be doing this. You know, they used to drown the dogs to death in the river. Now they choke them to death. It's horrific. But the reality is that, you know, their motivation for getting out of the trade is there, but they just need some support. And so that's where, again, we come in where, you know, we have a consultant that works with local development, you know, local like business opportunities, particularly in rural communities. And so she's been really fundamental in helping to develop these, you know, alternative livelihood plans, because again, at the end of the day, we are an animal welfare charity. However, we can collaborate with those that do know about, you know, sustainable, you know, development projects, and to hopefully, you know, bring local solutions to people that want to get out and want to do the right thing. And so we are really hoping that we can go forward with this closure. I am hoping beginning of August. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. We are watching and waiting for travel restrictions, and we really need to place those 6 dogs, you know, to make sure we have the capacity to take many more. There is anywhere from 10 to 30 dogs on site at any time. And so we'll just have to see, but we are very actively pursuing this now because we have this opportunity. We want to strike while the iron's hot. We want to close this place down and save the dogs that are there, stop these dogs from being slaughtered. But we just need to kind of reconcile that with what's going on in the world right now, and our inability as well to send dogs when you know, airlines just simply aren't flying anymore. And to circle back to cats, we're going to be putting out very soon. No one else has seen this. This is, you know, a little snapshot of our cat meat trade report there on the top right. So this is going to be the first ever of its kind to document, you know, what's happening with cats in Vietnam, and it's a tough read. I mean, it's a tough one, but we want to really use that to really mobilize cat lovers in Vietnam to really, you know, start dialogue and start momentum, raise awareness that this is happening, and then ultimately work with the government to try to, you know, put an end to this. So I'm going to end this presentation on the lovely Maddie, also known as Olive. It just sounds weird to me because I know her as Maddie. And so I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this, because I know it's not an easy topic. It's very difficult to hear about, but the good news is that there's a lot of progress and a lot of forward momentum. And I'm just really excited about all of the opportunities and the support that you guys are able to provide us. So a huge thank you. If you have any questions, of course, you can reach me at my email there on the right, or of course you can email Jen, and we'd be happy to, you know, have a chat and answer any questions you might have. So huge thank you again. Take care.